Okay, we're going to call this meeting to order. This is the City of Buckeye council meeting, a regular council meeting for November 19th, 2024. And we are going to start off with the invocation led by Pastor Aaron Byram, West Valley leader for Christ Church of the Valley, and followed by the pledge led by Councilmember Guy.
Join me in prayer. Father, we are thankful for your faithfulness, your goodness. As we prepare tonight's meeting, I just pray that you continue to go before us just as you continually do. Father, as we prepare for tonight's meeting, I just want to recognize two individuals, Janine Guy and Michelle Hess, for their civil service to our city, for their faithful service of continuing to serve the city of Buckeye. And Father, as they go on in their careers, I pray that you continue to allow them fortune and favor, and also provisions and protection. And Father, I pray for the two incoming council members that they would have a heart of service. And Father, I just pray that each and every single one of us recognize that we are all fallible and that you are infallible. So if there's any issues tonight, I pray that you would just go before those and help us to see eye to eye. And Father, I pray that you continue to make Buckeye a star on the map. We know that it's one of the fastest growing cities, if not the number one growing city often in the country. And I believe that is because we are stewarding your resources well, and that we desire to do whatever it is that you desire for us to do. So help us to have a servant heart, just as Jesus did when he came. And he reminded the disciples that the current leadership of that time would lord it over their people. But Jesus said, not so with you. Because the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and give his life as a ransom to many. So I pray for the councilmen and women, the faculty and the staff and the city of Buckeye, that they would continue to just be a servant leadership city. We thank you for them doing that now, and I pray that you continue to do so. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you both. Thank you, Pastor Aaron. Okay, can we have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Yonker. Here. Councilmember Hegestad. Here. Councilmember Hess. Present. Councilmember Guy.
Here.
Councilmember Hustis is absent. Vice Mayor Goodman.
Present.
Mayor Worsborn.
Present. Thank you very much. Item number 3 is awards, presentations, and proclamations. 3A, the Buckeye Youth Council will report on participation in events and volunteer activities to date. So would you please come forward?
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. Thank you for allowing us time to share about the work we are proudly doing. The Buckeye Youth Council is made up of 20 council members and our executive team, which includes, and I'll let them introduce themselves.
I'm Natalie Eng. I am the secretary.
I am Haley Mosier. I'm vice chair.
And I'm Malia Davis, our chair. Okay. We meet once a month for an hour and a half. The Youth Council is focused on 3 critical areas of leadership development, which include character, civic engagement, and communication. We call these the 3 C's. Our report will highlight the work we are doing to build our capacity in each area. First up is character. The Youth Council is working as a team to create our meeting norms and expectations. Developing and maintaining high expectations for engagement ensures a strong sense of sensibility and responsibility among our team. Several council members attend the League U of Cities Conference and Towns Conference and their first West Valley Youth Summit. This is actually a quote from me. At the League of Cities Conference, I had the ability to collaborate with other youth councils and actively participate in planning a city youth summit. The experience was enriching and providing valuable lessons and a chance to network with peers, which was a key goal of mine this year. Councilmember Jaden stated the West Valley Youth Summit was a great way to connect and learn with other students from other youth councils. I really enjoyed the breakout sessions, such as stress management, as well as the public speaking support. Next up is civic engagement. This year, the Buckeye Youth Council implemented committees to further empower and engage our council members. The Civic Engagement Committee is working on a project to organize a donation drive to gather essential items like hygiene products and clothes. We hope to collaborate with the local nonprofit and high school counselors for distribution to the community. The Community Outreach Committee is working in conjunction with city staff to engage our youth in culture-focused learning activities at a city-sponsored event in the spring. We are very excited for this opportunity to bring additional cultural awareness to our neighbors. In addition, we have 3 seniors completing projects of their own. These council members have individually reached out to the community members for resources and support. Maddie Guy is collecting 200 cards to send in care packages for those actively serving in the military. Lisbeth Ortiz created voter kits to encourage her peers to register to vote before the deadline and is now working on collecting civic engagement resources for the community. I'm working on a project called Rock the Block, in which I am working with local business owners and city staff to decorate certain areas of downtown with rocks painted by our very own residents. Lastly is communication. Each week we set aside some time to practice our public speaking skills. We start by working through lessons developed by Toastmasters, and then we meet in small groups discussing topics and present impromptu speeches. Thank you again, and this concludes our report. We welcome any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you. Any comments from council? Seeing none. Thank you so much. We sure, because it's comments from the awards and presentations, and we'll go back to comments from the public. I missed that item on this. Sure proud of our Buckeye Youth Council and all that they do, and we have the opportunity to see them in action all the time, and you all just had the opportunity to see them in action tonight. They are learning so much and going to be such incredible citizens. They're all going to go on and do really, really awesome things, and we hope that they continue to do those awesome things right here in the city of Buckeye. So thank you for presenting. Item number 2, I'll go back to that. Comments from the public. Members of the audience may comment on any non-agenda item of interest. I have 7 comments, all on the incorporation of Tonopah, so that we're not here all night long. Generally, we give 3 minutes to each speaker, and if we could ask you to keep it to 2 minutes to each speaker, or if you want to gather, I'm sure every one of you wants the opportunity to get up and say great things. If you want to consolidate that to one person, we give them longer, but we'll go through the list, and we'll leave that up to you all. So first up, Nick Mert. Just come right on into the bullpen here, and the light will light, and when the green light's on, then you've got 2 minutes.
I'm a resident of Tonopah, and I'm against this incorporation. It's going to impact Buckeye as well as Tonopah financially for what these people are trying to do or want to do. And I'm asking for you guys not to cooperate anymore. They're doing some stuff behind the curtain type thing, trying to bamboozle all of us. So I'm just against it altogether. It's too much of a financial loss for the residents of Tonopah, and as well, what they're trying to do is going to impact financial things in Buckeye, because they want to build everything out there when everyone in Buckeye or Tonopah comes to Buckeye. So that's just going to create competition between the 2 places. And I just don't think that's very financially smart for anything. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Mert. Am I saying that correctly? Yes. Okay, thank you. Next is Don Hughes.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I am also a Tonopah resident, have been for the last 11 years. Last November, there was a local businessman in Tonopah who has a sales flyer that he kind of presents as a newspaper that gleefully noted that this council passed a resolution approving some boundaries and so forth for the future Tonopah Corporation. So that was the first that I had heard of a serious move towards incorporation. So what we did right after that is attended the very next meeting of the Tonopah incorporation group. And there are 40 people that showed up opposed to the 5 people who were there for the incorporation. And the point I just wanted to make is that there's a bit more conflict in this than I think was originally presented in the consent agenda. And so I'd just like to ask the council to reconsider that resolution and perhaps bring it back up for a rehearing in the future. Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Suzette Hughes?
Good evening. I'm Suzette Hughes. I'm a resident of Tonopah, and I'm also here not only to oppose the incorporation of Tonopah, but to call out a deliberate falsehood that was submitted to this council last year by the incorporation group. In order to get their submission of request, which I have a copy of here, on the consent agenda, they claimed that there was, and I quote, no significant or organized opposition to incorporating. And I can say assuredly that there is and has been significant opposition. There's even a Facebook group called Tonopah Residents Opposed to Incorporation, and I just looked today, there's almost 600 members. That's a pretty big number for little old Tonopah, so I consider that quite significant. Their no opposition claim that they included in their submission was stated so that they could get it on a consent agenda, which was a blatant effort to mislead the council. So last October, resolution number 110-23 was passed as part of a consent agenda, but as I stated, Buckeye City Council was given misleading false information. And so I would request, based on this, that the resolution be rescinded. If the incorporation group wants to move forward, it should be done properly and in the open. So my request would be to consider rescinding that resolution that was passed on the misleading statements. I don't have time to finish the last, so thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hughes. Mr. Graham.
Hello, Mayor, Council. We met about a year ago when we came to see if you could rescind that resolution. And for people in the audience who are like, what is going on here? Some people in Tonopah want to incorporate, and it makes their job a lot easier if they can get a consent resolution from the city of Buckeye because our borders will match. They played fast and loose with the law, and as we discussed with the city attorney, this council may not even have the authority to give a consent resolution because the law states that it applies to cities that incorporated after a particular date, and Buckeye is an older city. They incorporated before the date, so you may not even have the authority to give a consent. But definitely, I live in the right off the Hacienda, so I'm in the city of Buckeye. I've got 40 acres, their expansion zone. I don't see why it's in any interest whatsoever for this city to take all that tax money. Right now, you don't have to do any maintenance in Tonopah. You don't have to provide any services. But we all come to Watson and Miller to do all of our shopping. Why would you want all that tax money to go away? Anyway, they're out of time because they screwed up using, when they submitted the application, they used a name that they don't own. It's owned by another entity. And so they're now out of time, and they either need to get an extension on the resolution or they need you to provide a new resolution. And we asked this council just to say, oh, heck no, we don't want any part of that wasp nest. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Graham. Keith Kronbach? Ms. Lucinda, when that orange or the yellow light goes on, how much time is left at that point?
30 seconds.
30 seconds, okay. Green light
I'm
is,
going to take 30 seconds.
green light is 2 minutes, yellow light is 30 seconds. Yellow light means go real fast.
Okay, all right. We ready? Here we go. I just want to thank the mayor and the council for letting me speak tonight. And I don't want nobody to take anything personal. I want to thank the the city attorney for getting me all the documentation that I asked for a few weeks back, and I finally got it this morning. I want to thank Brian for listening to my emails and stuff and talking to me on the phone. We had some real civil conversations the last couple weeks. But I've been a resident of Tonopah for almost 30 years now, and this has come up several different times, and it's always involved the same person. City of Buckeye, how many political subdivisions do you have in the city of Buckeye? You got 7 or 8? Most of them are school districts. You got the fire district, and then you got the school districts. Do you guys know who your leaders are in the school districts?
Generally.
Well, Mr. Dan Blackston is one of them, and he sits on the Saddle Mountain School District. Out of all this documentation here, he has signed every single one of them. Every single one of them. According to the state's attorney general and the advocate for superintendents, he should not be involved in this. And that was the conversations that I've had with them. I've been waiting on this documentation to file a complaint with the Attorney General's office, but they told me to come here and speak and show my concerns to the city council because Saddle Mountain School District is shared with the city of Buckeye. And there's a lot of people that are gonna pay for this incorporation other than just Tonopah. It's gonna be residents of Buckeye. Thank you. Appreciate the time.
Thank you, Mr. Cromack. Jane Pfeiffer? All right. I said it right? You did. All right.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. My name is Jane Pfeiffer, and I live on 331st Avenue in Tonopah. Part of the reason why I'm here tonight, and I want to thank everybody for being so willing to listen to us and all of the folks from Tonopah. I am in the future growth area of Buckeye. Okay. My property where I reside is on the west side of 331st Avenue, which puts me very much right on your edge, like I am the furthest that you have declared going west for the growth area. So I'm kind of stuck in no man's land, okay? I am not part of the city of Buckeye. I have a Tonopah address, but I'm not included in the Buckeye resolution boundaries either. So I'm in no man's land. I'm stuck in the middle. When have you ever known a city not to grow? Somebody's going to come along and clobber my property, whether it is this new community of Tonopah, whose idea I hate, or whether it's Buckeye, which I hate less. It's not that I hate Buckeye. I just don't, I want to be rural. I chose rural for a reason, and I want to be rural. The resolution given in October expires May 31st of 2025. There is no way for them to finish the process by the time that expiration date rolls around. The group that came to you and asked for that resolution will have no choice but to come back to you and ask for either an extension or a new resolution. We absolutely beg you not to do that by consent agenda, but rather, if you're going to consider it, that it be by full hearing where full opportunity is given to all the citizens of Tonopah to come and speak before you. Thank you.
Thank you for hating us less, Mrs. Pfeiffer.
It came out badly.
Scott Bloom.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I guess I'm the newbie out in Tonopah, and I got thrust into this. I had to move out there because I have to stay rural. I have a horse breeding facility, and when I came out there, all of a sudden I was saying that they were moving, that they were turning it into a city. So I went to a couple of their meetings, and I was shockingly surprised how ignorant they are in a financial situation of what it takes to run a city. They are completely underestimating. One person says, we can make a police department for $500,000. And I looked at them and I says, it's costing me $1 million to set up my horse property. There's no way you can do this. So they are trying to create a city on strictly using Arizona tax money. that is solely not going to be enough money to do what they mean, which means that this city is going to be formed, incorporated, and within no time is going to be in bankruptcy because there's not enough population to survive and stuff. So I'm asking you to not extend their resolution, if not disregard it, because they will be wasting Arizona taxpayer money that they get to start this city up, because there's no way that they can survive. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bloom. That's the last of the comments from the public speaker request cards. Do you have any other speaker request cards over there?
No additional requests.
I do have one more for 6D, but that's a later agenda item. Mr. Attorney or Brian, one of you might be able to answer. When does this come before council again?
Mr. Mayor, just to remind the City Council, back last year, the council adopted a resolution that's been referenced a couple times in the presentations from the public. That resolution expires in May of 2025. There is nothing scheduled before you. You adopted the resolution not opposing the Tonopah Incorporation. If the incorporators want to come back and talk to us, it's my understanding, I'm not as well versed as Brian Craig is on this subject, but I don't believe that they are in a position that they're going to make a ballot in May. And so consequently, I think their resolution is going to expire without them having taken action. And so my sense is we will probably hear from somebody from the incorporator side wanting a new resolution, and then at that time the council can consider that. And staff will continue to work with both the Tonopah groups to try and understand the issues, and we'll present to you an opportunity to consider whether or not we want to come back on a Tonopah resolution.
Okay.
Nothing scheduled right now, sir.
Nothing scheduled right now, later date, potentially. Okay, appreciate that, and I appreciate all of the public comment tonight. Thank you for working that within 2 minutes each, and more to come on that. Thank you. Okay, item number 4 is consent agenda items and new business. Approval of items on the consent agenda. All items with an asterisk are considered to be routine matters and will be enacted by one motion and vote of the City Council. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member requests. The section may include the approval of minutes from previous meetings. Council, what is your pleasure on the consent agenda?
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve items 4A through 4I.
I'll second.
Have a motion for approval of the consent agenda and a second by Councilman Goodman. If you would vote on your magic voting machine. I think we're all in. Passes unanimous. Thank you very much. That's so anticlimactic now. We should at least call, those in favor say aye. Okay, that was anticlimactic too. That's great. Luckily we have the machine where we don't have to speak. Okay, item number 5, continued, tabled, and public hearings. No action will be taken on the items listed in this section. Details of the continuance are reflected in the item descriptions. Both 5A, 5A, no action will be taken on this item. The item is, and the accompanying public hearing is continued till the January 21st, 2025 regular council meeting. And for item 5B, this item, no action will be taken. This item and the accompanying public hearing is continued to the January 21st, 2025 regular council meeting. We'll move on to item number 6, public hearings and non-consent new business. 6A, council to hold a public hearing, take action on ordinance number 28-24, amending the zoning map of the city of Buckeye for approximately 31.82 acres located at the southeast corner of Verrado Way and Roosevelt Street from planned residential to planned area development. And to present, we have Mr. Ken Galika.
Good evening, Mayor. Excuse me. Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Ken Galika, Planning Manager, presenting a rezoning of property for a development called The Mix on Roosevelt. So the property is highlighted on these 3 exhibits. It's just under 32 acres, 31.82 acres. Specifically, it's located at the hard southeast corner of Verrado Way and Roosevelt Street, Just to orient you on the aerial photograph, to the north is the Buckeye Commons East Shopping Center. It's the Costco Shopping Center. To the northwest is the Abrazo campus that's starting to go to construction. Directly to the west is another commercial development called the Roosevelt Commons Shopping Center. And then the Summit Church is located to the east of this property. Everything else, well, directly west, we also have the APS Palo Verde Nuclear Energy Education Center and West Mech. Everything else in the area is undeveloped currently. The zoning map in the middle of the screen shows the site as planned residential. This is a zoning district, an obsolete district specifically that allows for single family residential development, which is not necessarily consistent with the general plan designation, which is the third map on your screen on the far right. This property is located within the Gateway Activity Center. We've referred to it now, or we've kind of informally changed the name of the area to the Landing. We're working on a specific area plan for that area. The city envisions that really as a more dense, urban type of environment, not so much of a single family kind of extension of the single family environment that we see throughout most of Buckeye. This particular rezoning will rezone the site to planned area development, which again is now a standalone zoning district. So we don't need to rezone it to commercial and multifamily with an overlay. We can simply rezone it to this PAD. The PAD will establish two separate distinct sub-areas. The red sub-area on the north side of the street up against Roosevelt is about 12.75 acres. That will be a commercial sub-area where it will be developed as a grocery anchored shopping center with a very specific tailored use list based on the C2 district, but with auto-oriented uses such as gas stations, auto repair, some of those types of uses, as well as drive-throughs with limitations or outright not being permitted within the proposed PAD. The residential area is shown in yellow. That's slightly larger. It's 17.3 acres. That is, per the PAD, would be developed with a 394 unit apartment complex, roughly 22 and a half or so dwelling units to the acre, with the uses in that zone per the MF2 district. So just your standard residential uses would be permitted in that. Both of the sites have really, both of the components of this site have really good access. The commercial has direct access off of Roosevelt as well as Verado Way. The residential's primary access is from Fillmore to the south, which will be a future signalized intersection itself. But there's also really good cross connectivity provided with driveways as well as shaded pedestrian connections provided between the two components, really to encourage that mixed use type of environment where the residents are frequenting the businesses in the shopping center. The development will be served by city water and sewer, details of which will be worked out during the site planning process. And as is customary, the developer will improve adjacent half streets. Just real quickly, you want to point out, the land use map shows a roundabout at Roosevelt and Verado Way at their primary entrance to the commercial. That's not necessarily going to be the end solution there. It's possible it could be, but that also might be just a more typical signalized intersection. We're working through those details. So the PADs, as you are aware, can be used to modify certain standards from the base zoning district. So in this particular case, we have used the PAD to make some of those modifications in line kind of with the vision that we're hearing for the landing area. So we have slightly increased the building setback adjacent to streets. This is in the commercial area from 0 to 8 feet. Now, what that will do is it won't set the buildings back significantly far where it feels like a suburban environment, but will allow just enough landscaping to soften the development from the perspective of those adjacent streets. The non-street side building setbacks, meaning the east property line shared with the church, would be reduced to 0 feet, given that it's not a residential use occurring there. 0 foot setback is typically appropriate. Excuse me, my allergies are extra bad today. The building height would be increased from the standard of 50 feet, which is typically allowed in the C2 district, to 80 feet. I want to be clear that this developer doesn't have any intent on actually using that 80 feet, but it would allow for that more intense development, which staff feels is appropriate in the landing area in the future should the site redevelop. We also establish a minimum building height, which we don't do in our zoning ordinance or in our development code. We establish a minimum building height for the commercial. So the primary buildings, the majors, the grocery store, et cetera, will have a 30-foot height, and the pads on the perimeter of the site would have a 20-foot minimum height. That's really to create that more vertical, urban type of feel within this development. The PAD also modifies some of the design standards from our development code, really trying to get at presenting a strong appearance from the perspective of those adjacent streets with a focus on Verado Way, and I'll talk about that more in just a little bit. One of those things is enhanced screening and requirements for location of drive-throughs. As you see on the site plan, the drive-throughs that are proposed, there are 2, both adjacent to Roosevelt Street, which isn't so much the visual priority on this corridor, but Verado Way has a very near continuous building frontage. The residential area, very similar modifications to development standards. The street side, non-street side building setbacks, identical to what I just discussed. Our code doesn't establish a minimum building height, maximum building height in our MF2 district, so we do establish one here just to give people some level of comfort that it's not going to be 100-story buildings within this area. There is an elimination of a 3rd-story step back requirement. That's a requirement in our code. I'll show you. That within 50 feet of adjacent streets, a 3-story building would have to step back to 2 stories. So using this image at the bottom right corner of your screen, this building would need to basically take a stair step to 2 stories for the portion that was located within that 50-foot of the street property line. We're fully supportive of this. Again, we're trying to really create a very vertical edge to the project. Certain locations in the city, that would not necessarily be appropriate, but that would be something that we're looking to do here, create that sense of difference from the remainder of the community. The landscape percentage within the residential is increased, doubled actually from was required, and there is extra design requirements.
Ken, is this allergies, or you getting choked up because you're so excited about this project?
I'm very excited. Post-nasal drip, unfortunately.
Thank you for that. We got that on record.
Yes. It's just, I don't know. It's not a comfortable day. Anyway, I mentioned the design emphasis on Verado Way, trying to really orient those buildings up at the street so that when you drive down Verado Way, it's going to feel like you're in a more urban type of location. I don't want to equate it to downtown Phoenix. We're not quite there yet, but certainly feel different than what we see in other corridors throughout the city. You can see the residential buildings there pressed to the back of the sidewalk. The walls typically would enclose these types of apartment complexes, kind of create an internal compound, if you would. In this case, those buildings, the walls will connect the buildings so that the buildings themselves kind of create that urban edge. So excited about that. The commercial, this is a view as if you were standing in the intersection of Verado Way and Roosevelt. looking into the project. The two buildings, commercial buildings, kind of butt up against each other, creating that pedestrian plaza opportunity for outdoor dining in that area, and really interface well again with the intersection. So wrapping up, staff believes the P80 is consistent with the Gateway Activity Center, what we're calling the landing, general plan land use designation. While we don't have that plan fully baked yet, we have had a lot of public feedback as far as what they're expecting to see, and I think this is starting to get toward that. In the future, when we finish that plan up, I think the biggest, the heaviest or most intense uses will be to the south. That'll be what we probably consider the core, but this is kind of stepping up in scale from the Costco as you get to that future core area. The PAD also emphasizes the pedestrian, again, those pedestrian crossings, connections between the residential and commercial, and these are not your, sometimes you see those just kind of dump out into a service area of a shopping center. In this case, it's much better planning than that. These are not outletting into those types of service areas. This will be in safe and illuminated locations, landscaped and shaded. I mentioned narrowing the use lists to restrict those auto-oriented uses, also less desirable retail uses. Your pawn shops aren't permitted, those types of things. Thrift stores, only 5,000 square feet maximum, so that would just be your boutique-y type of thrift stores, etc. As well as low-intensity commercial uses like mini storage would not be permitted here. We like the aesthetics, the design, both the commercial and residential are very complementary to one another, but certainly not to the point where they're identical or matching. That gets a little boring. So we feel this is a really good, strong PAD from that architectural standpoint. Very high quality materials being used, modern, contemporary, reflective of a lot of the development we're seeing in this particular area. The developer I mentioned will be completing those off-site infrastructure improvements. The extent of some of those still to be determined, and all reviewing departments have given the thumbs up. A relatively simple public participation process with this. The only attendee to the neighborhood meeting was Councilmember Hustis. So now you guys have caught up to him. So each of you have attended one meeting on this project. No written support or opposition received to date from any adjoining property owner. Both of the school districts that this property is located within have provided adequate school facility certificates. They are working with the developer on donation agreements if necessary. Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend approval back in October, and all notices have been completed, excuse me. So with that, apologize for my raspiness tonight. Happy to answer any questions. This is a public hearing item. We do recommend approval. And the developer applicant, Carolyn Oberholzer, on behalf of the project developers, is here as well if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you, Ken. We'll go to, well, first we'll open up a public hearing. I do not have any speaker request cards. Ms. Lucinda, do we have any speaker request cards for this item?
There are no speaker request cards.
None? Okay. We have no public speakers, so we will close the public hearing. And questions from council? Councilmember Hess.
So you mentioned the roundabout. Do we need a stipulation for that, or is that not really part of the agreement? That's just something later for the...
Yeah, Mayor, Councilmember Hess, we mentioned, the PAD itself mentions, and some of the exhibits note that is a possible condition, but also give the alternate of a more typical four-way intersection there. So we don't need to stipulate anything.
Okay. And then the second thing, you said the design was, you guys were in favor of the design. Will we go as far as having some kind of design for the landing or suggested pallets, and is that kind of known now since it's a moving?
Yeah, I think to a certain extent, and Mayor, Council Member, forgive me for not going through protocol. Yes, we will have some sort of design expectations, guidelines for the landing area. I don't think we'll get into such a fine degree where you need to use this color or this material, but try to be consistent in terms of more of a contemporary type of style, flat roofs instead of your pitched roofs, et cetera, those types of things. This is very much in line with a lot of what we're seeing with the Abrazo project that's under construction, with the retail, some of the additional retail buildings that are under construction to the north in the Costco Center, and to the west in the Roosevelt Commons Center too. So I would say future development will probably share this type of aesthetic, although we might expect it to be more intense, a little taller, et cetera.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're communicating expectations and that it's a fluid design overlay at this point in time.
Yes, we don't want to get too prescriptive because that cancels out creativity in a lot of cases, but certainly don't want to open it up and be too varied across the board.
Great, thanks, that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember. I'm not seeing any other questions. I have just a couple. Can we have a maximum height? It looks like we're depicting 3-story for the residential. If there was an opportunity to do more, is planning excited about higher residential in that area?
Yes, Mayor, planning would welcome a 4 or 5-story building here, and you wouldn't even necessarily need to amend the PAD to do something like that. We could work through that at site plan because this would establish the allowance for that.
Okay. Is there anybody from Alliance Residential here? They're not going to admit, oh, you're admitting to it. Okay. So hear that out loud. We're not going to force you all to do anything, and I don't know how many meetings you guys go to where they're saying, it's not dense enough, and we'd like it to be taller. Just hear us on that, no pressure, but we would love to see that elevation up higher and that 4 to 5-story, similar to what I think we see in the West Valley along Avondale Boulevard, which is a project that Mr. Gleek is really familiar with.
Don't know anything about it.
Right.
I will say this is a tall 3-story, so they've given us taller stories here, so it'll hopefully create some of that verticality more so than your typical 3-story. But certainly, if we want to do more, happy to work with the developer.
Yeah. So a 4-story with some gingerbread on top to make it look like a 5.
So 7 stories. Okay.
7 stories is good by planning. Alliance Residential, you heard that correct? This is all on tape. And really excited about that. Really excited about the entire project and the opportunity here. Anyone from Banner here? I'm not seeing any. This is a Banner Health piece of property, and it's gone through a process where Banner looked at this, Eric's understanding of it anyway, where Banner looked for development partners to come in and do something special on this. There are a number of things that could have been done that don't really fit the vision of the area. And I'm really thankful that Banner chose someone like Eisenberg Company and someone like Alliance Residential to build 4 or 5-story buildings on this piece of property. We could not be more excited about the partners that are coming in and doing the work. I shouldn't speak for all of us, but me specifically, I know Eisenberg and Alliance do some really, really special stuff, and we're excited to see this project executed here and to bring in the brands that I think are being bandied about. So, Councilman Yonker, you have something to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to piggyback on that. I know that we have, throughout the city, we have lots of different multifamily projects that are on our docket. I think at one point it was up in the low 40s. Can you touch briefly on why this project works so well in this particular area and it might not work so well in others, and why we would be excited for that 5 or 6-story building or 18-story, whatever Eric decides his number is for the minute. But just speak briefly on that, why, from a planning aspect, it makes sense to have something like that in that area, but not necessarily somewhere else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point that I didn't really touch on. But overall, the city's vision for the landing, dating back to the general plan, was for an intense. You could compare it to places like Kierland or other kind of kind of mega Biltmore area, the 24th Street and Camelback type of area here, where you have a lot of commercial. You have a lot of restaurants, services, et cetera, offices, if there's still a demand to build offices. To do that, you need population. You need significant population in terms of people and income within a 1, 3, 5 mile radius. Economic development could explain all that a lot better than me, but each one of these residential developments in this landing area, and you'll see a few more in the next 6 months, if not less than that, coming in for this very same general vicinity. Each one will, add 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 residents. That will help us get to those numbers that the developers of the retail, the developers of the office, et cetera, are looking for. So this area is perfect for that vision because it's largely untouched. There's not much from an existing neighbor standpoint. You're not going to anger too many people. We're very cognizant of Blue Horizons and Sundance, which are on the kind of outer edges of the landing area, and we'll step down as we get closer to those areas, of course. But for this Verrado corridor, very little in place that we have to, worry about offending a resident or something like that.
Okay, that's all I had. I just want to go on the record that everybody gives me crap about not being a big advocate of multifamily, but where it works, it works. So I agree with this project.
Understood, yep.
I've never heard anybody give him crap.
Today.
That's ridiculous. Okay, item 6A, then council, let's see, we've had the public hearing, closed that, asked and answered questions. So council 6A, what is your pleasure?
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of item 6A.
So, motion for approval by Councilman, or Vice Mayor Goodman, second by Councilman Yonker. Would you please vote on your machine, and all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? And we are unanimous. 6A passes unanimous. Thank you very much. Alliance, go build 5-story buildings. Thank you. All right, item 6B, council to hold a public hearing and take action on resolution number 73-24, approving the submission of an application for a community development block grant, CDBG, to the Maricopa County Human Services Department Housing and Community Development Division for the Kell Park Revitalization Project. And this will be presented by Ms. Andrea Marquez.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. Andrea Marquez, Senior Planner, Special Projects, presenting tonight before you our CDBG application submittals. So with your permission, I have combined the presentation. Council will have to hold 2 separate public hearing motions. Again, a public hearing is required. It's one of the requirements for the submission of the application, in addition to a signed resolution. This is for the 2025-2026 Community Development Block Grant, known as CDBG. It's for that cycle year. Tonight before you for a public hearing is Resolution 7324, and that's to ratify the submission for the CDBG Kell Park Revitalization Application, and for Resolution 7424, ratifying the submission of CDBG Downtown LA Improvements. So as you can see, the city will be submitting 2 separate applications this year. So what I would like to do is go over our HUD national objectives, pass the board projects, CDBG funding eligibility, the 2 program proposed projects for this year, next steps, and then, of course, staff recommendations. In order to submit our applications, we need to make sure that they're eligible. So projects can focus on the following objectives: and that's to benefit low to moderate income, which is, I'll be using LMI a lot in this presentation. Low to moderate income person, area, or clientele. Applications can also be submitted for housing, job creation, retention, infrastructure, and facilities. Also, prevention or elimination of slum and blight. Area basis, spot basis, urban renewal, and urgent need. Now, the city has always focused our projects on benefits to LMI clientele and or area. So, for example, recent awards have been for infrastructure improvements, which would include alleyways, water, sewer lines, sidewalks, and then also a senior center kitchen expansion. Our completed projects, which is also, these are noted in our applications, so they strengthen our applications when we are submitting. In 2021, 2022, we were awarded $600,000 for the kitchen expansion, which is fully functional and in operation today. In last year, we were awarded $605,000 for the construction costs for our alleyway improvements in 10th Street. So we're currently under design and engineering for that project. We're anticipating construction starting in January to complete in April, and then all reporting to Maricopa County by June of next year. In order to be eligible for CDBG funding, we have to adhere to a 5-year comprehensive plan, which is drawn up by Maricopa County. Activities must take place in low to moderate income areas or benefit low to moderate income persons. HUD provides a yearly updated LMI summary data for grantees to use to determine compliance and that they meet the national objective. So area-based or person-based projects have to be either within a 49% percentile or 51. And both projects that are being submitted have been identified within either the 56%, 60%, or sorry, there are a lot of numbers in there, LMI areas. So these applications have been vetted out and do qualify for submission. So HUD actually defines low to moderate income or persons or households with an income that does not exceed 80% of the median income. So the current 2024 median household income for Maricopa County is $101,000. So there's just a chart for reference. So as you can see, a household of 4 persons are considered very low income if they do not exceed that $30,000. So this year, estimated available CDBG funding is unknown. It's estimated to be at $1.7 million. We do receive these funds through Maricopa County, and the funds are limited. Applicants must provide their own funds for administration and grant activities. And this process is competitive, including ourselves. There's typically applications that are submitted by El Mirage, Gila Bend, Guadalupe, Litchfield, Park does not participate, Fountain Hills does not participate, Tolleson, Wickenburg, and Youngtown are the towns and cities that do submit applications every year. Before you, just a real quick aerial of our vicinity map of our Cal Park revitalization. So the CDBG funds will be used for construction, which would include demo, site grading, new landscaping, hardscape, irrigation, electrical, and new amenities. Now, Cal Park is located on 6th Street and Edison Avenue, so if you're familiar with our downtown library, just directly adjacent to that. So with the CDBG application, we will be requesting $650,000. This is a reimbursement. Project total cost is around $862,000. So some of those funds will be coming out of our general fund. The need for the project, I have some pictures just for reference, and these will also be included in the application. So our program rooms are exceeding capacity. And then also I would like to, if I remember how to use this pointer. Okay, the picture where you see the bookshelves, I just wanted you to notice that when we do have programming at the library, staff does have to relocate and move those over off to the side, so there's activity area space for the children for story time or any other activities the library will have. So for these funds, the proposed outputs are going to be outdoor, so providing outdoor program areas and reading areas, additional MATA, and then also additional features for playground equipment as well. So this is a conceptual drawing. I will also be including just some conceptual design. This project has not been designed or engineered at this time, so those funds that we're asking with the grant, that will be included. So as you can see, if we go back, the programming space, this is to the south of the library. As you can see, shaded areas, some seating areas for parents, and then a designated area for our little residents who go to our library programs. And then this is on the north side, so this is also just additional seating and reading area that will be proposed with this grant money. And then our next application is for our downtown alley improvements. The funds will be used for construction, and that will help reduction of dust emissions, eliminate pothole complaints, improve right-of-way maintenance, install signage, and improve access to homes and public facilities. And this one's a pretty simple project. It's just adding asphalt alleyways at a minimum of 12 foot wide. This is a project that has already been designed and engineered, so it is shovel-ready. I have selected per the Public Works Department, there's approximately 8 priority alleyways that we would like to construct with this particular funding. So those are highlighted in red. And with this grant request, we are requesting $650,000 in reimbursement, and we are estimating our construction for the 8 alleyways is approximately $650,000. And that's based on the engineer's probable cost. Before you can see, it's just a picture of our existing alleyways. We'd like to get those improved with this grant. Now, grant application implementation schedule. Why this is important, why we're here today for a public hearing. Applications were available in October. Our deadline for application submittal is December 10th. So I need to make sure that I have my documentation to submit with my application submittal. January, Maricopa County will have the first public hearing, and this is where the applicants will make their presentations. I will be inviting Public Works and also Community Services to assist me with those presentations. Then the city could learn as early as February if we will be getting funded, either one or both projects. And then during that time, Maricopa County staff will be sending those recommendations from CDAC to the Board of Supervisors, in addition to their annual action plan. And then typically, they have this in the calendar as early as July that we would get a notice to proceed, but historically, we usually get a notice to proceed sometime in October. That's the implementation schedule. So again, just as a reminder, I'm here to present the resolution so we can conduct a public hearing to ratify the submissions of two separate CDBG applications and approve the following resolutions: 73-24 for the Cal Park and 74-24 for the proposed downtown alleyway improvements. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Andrea. We'll take these one at a time. We'll start with 6B. We will open a public hearing. Do we have any speaker request cards for item 6B?
No speaker requests.
No speaker request cards. We will now close the public hearing. And council, any questions on 6B? Yes, sir.
Remind me, have we already approved these projects, 6B and 6C?
Mayor and Council Member Hegestad, the projects internally get vetted through our department heads and approved through city management. In regards to funding, some of these projects are within the CIP as proposals, but they have not been adopted. So again, if we are not awarded, I don't see us moving forward with these projects unless they are part of a CIP program.
Okay, so if I understand you correctly, 6B wouldn't move forward if we didn't get the grant. Is that correct?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
6B is unlikely to move forward if we don't get the grant, correct?
Correct.
And the projects in 6B would, we're just talking about a portion of the funding for those upgrades?
Yes, so for the Cal Park revitalization, we do have a cost estimate that is also part of the application submittal. Typically, to be competitive, we're not going to ask for the full amount. So $650, I feel, is a fair and competitive ask. The city does have to front up all costs of the project. And again, it's a reimbursement. So once we submit all the documentation to the county, we do receive reimbursement checks.
Okay, but not for we're not even asking for the whole amount of what we're going to spend on this out of the general fund, just a portion?
Correct.
Okay, and that's true on the other one too?
Correct. That one we did a little different because it's a larger project. So because we do have a cost estimate for the alleyways, we took out approximately 8 alleyways will cost us, the city, $650,000 to construct.
Okay. Well, I guess I can ask you those questions when you have the hearing on 6C. Is that how we want to?
No, you can go ahead and ask now. We can take them both at the same time. We just have to public hearing and vote on them individually.
So the way I understand it is under 6C, we're only asking for reimbursement of the design, engineering, permits, design, engineering, and permits for 650. So the actual construction would be something other than the 650 we'd be asking for under C.
So the way the grants are written for 6B, which is Cal Park, we have asked for a portion of our design and engineering to be covered with the reimbursement, and then and also construction. So it's a total of $650,000. The only difference between the B and C is that if we were awarded for the alleyway, since it's already designed and engineered, it's shovel ready. We can move forward with the project as soon as we get our notice to proceed. With 6B, because we're asking money for design and engineering, we will have to wait until we get the notice to proceed to even move forward with designing and engineering of the project.
Well, I mean, I'm just trying to make a distinction here that in 6C, we're asking, the 650 is not for complete construction, it's only for the design, engineering plans, and permits.
For 6C?
For 6C.
For 6C, it's already designed and engineered, so we're only asking for construction. The money we receive from the county will only go through, towards construction cost.
Okay. I'm looking at 6C, and it says, "The application for this project will ask for reimbursement of $650,000 or construction costs only. The design, engineering plans, and permits are estimated to be $650,000. So we're asking for construction costs. So that second sentence there, the design, engineering plans, and permits are estimated to be budgeted through the general fund. That's just a mistake in what was written there.
It is, and at the time that I was writing the CAR, I was unaware that the design and engineering was already completed for this particular house.
Okay, so under 6C, we're actually asking for construction costs in the amount of $650,000? Okay.
Correct.
And we've already done the design and engineering on that one.
Those are completed.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. That's all I've got, thank you.
Okay, apologies for the confusion.
All right, any other questions on item 6B? Council, then, what is your pleasure on 6B?
Mr. Mayor, make a motion that we approve item 6B.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Hess, second by Vice Mayor Goodman on 6B. All in favor, say aye and vote.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? And passes unanimous. On to item 6C, we'll open a public hearing. Do we have any speaker request cards for item 6C?
No speaker requests.
No speaker requests, so any questions on item 6C? Other questions, council? All right, council, what's your pleasure on 6C?
Mr. Mayor, make a motion that we approve item 6C.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Hess, second by Vice Mayor Goodman. All in favor, say aye and vote.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? And passes unanimous. 6B and 6C. Thank you, Ms. Marquez.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Item 6D, council take action on resolution number 77-2 for adopting the land use assumptions and infrastructure improvement plan and adopting a notice of intent to assess development fees in compliance with state law. And to present this, we'll have Mr. William Coppy. You are up.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. The item before you tonight for your consideration. Jump ahead a little bit. It's over. Thank you very much.
Okay, council, what's your pleasure?
Like Ken thing here. Sorry about that. So the item before you tonight for your consideration is to approve the land use assumption and the infrastructure improvement plan. These two reports were crucial in creating and proposing our upcoming impact fees. This item was previously discussed at the October 15th public hearing. So tonight I'm just going to give you a brief overview of some of the highlights of the public hearing, going over two changes that were made to the budget or to the report. And then we have one outstanding issue that will be discussed also tonight. Just to talk a little bit about the stakeholder process. Our first meeting started October 19th of 23, so it was well over a year ago we started this process and actually meeting with the stakeholder group. I think that process was an extremely valuable process. We had a lot of positive dialogue between the groups, and a lot of that information is being reflected in the report. So we had a total of 8 stakeholder meetings. In addition to that, we had many meetings after with some of the different groups that were part of the stakeholder committee, talked to them about their issues, some of their concerns. We tried to address those issues within the report, so I think we've kind of accommodated all of those with the exception of one item, which you'll hear about tonight. In addition, we met with the master developers, had our 13 meetings. So again, it was very, very beneficial. We listened to their feedback, and that has also been incorporated into this report. So I want to start with some of the changes that occurred since the 2020 report. I'll start with the fire. We added some additional fire station service areas, and this is predominantly up north. This is with the new development, North Star Ranch, Terra Vallis. That's what those service areas represent. We did add a fire facilities component that is different than a fire stations. This is primarily a resource facility for the fire department. In streets, we did add a new service area for the right-of-way. This is in north of Glendale Avenue. It's a 50% reduction of the impact fee for right-of-way. We also did add a arterial component. This is south of I-10 and then west or east of SR 85. So it's in that little rectangular area there. On water and wastewater, these are some of the more dramatic changes that we made in our report this time. Previously, we did charge up to 1.5-inch meter. In the previous report, though, we went all the way up to a 6-inch meter. So anything above 1.5 inches now has been eliminated. So, but it has been replaced with basically the charge per meter has been replaced, with the water study or engineering standards. So for non-residential, they're going to have to be required to either follow our engineering standards, which you'll see the results here, and the impact on that is very large. It's large increases, or they can provide us with a water report. Hopefully, when we come back for the public hearing for the fees, we can have some actual examples of somewhat water reports that were submitted, and we can show you what maybe the actual impact fee calculation would be on some of those larger facilities. For multifamily and single family, we did lower the average daily consumption from 113 gallons to 94 gallons per person on the water, which is about a 17% reduction. And then on the wastewater flows, we actually lowered it from 80 gallons to 54 gallons, which is about a 32% reduction in the fees calculation. Parks and Recreation, citywide, we did remove the regional park land fee, the pool fee, and regional trails. On the north side, we removed a community land, park land fee, but we did add a park amenities fee. Through the discussions, one of the changes that we did make was that we took the North Park amenity fees and spread it over 15 years instead of 10 years. So that lowered the cost for the impact fee calculation. Now, the one item that's left is in the amenities fees for the south. Right now, in the report, we have $1 million per acre for 30 acres, so it's $30 million. This is the one area, probably over the 13 months of discussions we had with the stakeholder group, this is the one where that was still a lot of questions or concerns, and you'll hear tonight from Mr. Ashley as it relates to this. We met internally. We talked about the fee. We met with the Parks and Rec, Miranda and Bob, and we really felt that based on our current cost for Sundance Park, $1 million is very reasonable cost. We looked at Surprise cost, they're around $850, give or take. And then with the kind of inflation factor, we feel that it's really close to this $1 million. We called Gilbert, we were looking at the cost. They're actually over $1 million now in their impact fee report. They're under $800,000 or around $800,000. But currently they're charging over $1 million, $1.5 million for an acre. So we do feel very that this is a reasonable fee. I know there's still some questions or comments related to this, but I can wait for a reply to Mr. Ashley's comments when he speaks to council. So here are some of the minor changes that we made to the report. We condensed the service area for water, wastewater. Previously, it went all the way out to the eastern boundaries of the city. We just know within the next 10 years, that's one area that we will not be developing or will not be included in this impact fee study. So, and then it stops, I think it stops around Turner Road. So then going west, we have nothing currently planned in our impact fee report. So here's a fee comparison. You can see Phoenix is still ahead of us, which is good, but it is a draft. So they're just starting the process, so their numbers could potentially come down. Gilbert is finalized, so they are definitely in the $35,000 range for a single family. Peoria, they're slightly ahead of us, so they should probably be adopting their fees here shortly. So at this point, I've not heard of any changes. So we're right between the Peoria West and Peoria North. Rise was approved last year. Apache Junction was done in 2022. So they'll actually be starting their impact fee report here shortly. So within the next year or two, their numbers could be increasing also. Multifamily, these are some of the examples of our comparison with other cities. So right now, you can see Peoria or Phoenix is still ahead of us pretty dramatically, then becomes Central. And again, if you look at the comparison between what we're proposing now and how it was proposed previously or what we're currently paying, it was really a change in how we calculate our water and wastewater usage. Before it was based on meter size, now it's based on actual gallons per unit. We really think that this is a more accurate reflection, excuse me, of what our actual water and wastewater demands are going to be on our system. So we realize there is a large increase, but we also think the calculation is a lot more appropriate. Here's commercial. It's a 123,000 square foot facility. Again, we can see the difference. We're currently fifth in comparison with some of the other cities. Again, this is based on this is probably going to be the worst case scenario with the highest water demand. They bring in their own water report. This number could change dramatically. So until we have some actual examples, we really won't know what the difference will actually be. Industrial, extremely large. This one is based on 33 acres. So it's, again, we're using our engineering standards, which takes into consideration the lot size. So this number is extremely high. So we do believe that this number will come down dramatically once we actually get a report that's submitted by the project. And then office space. They're all calculated, all non-residentials are all calculated exactly the same. So here's our current timeline. You can see the adoption of the land use assumption and the infrastructure improvement plan is tonight. Tomorrow, we're going to advertise the notice of intent and a public hearing for the development fees, which will be January 7th. And then the adoption of the fees will be February 18th with an effective date. At the earliest we can make the fees go into effect is May 5th. So staff does recommend council take action and adopt resolution 7724. And then with that, Mayor, I'll answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Copy. Let's start with, well, let's open up the public hearing. Then,
Mr. Mayor, there is no public hearing.
I'm sorry. Let's go to comments then. Thanks for keeping me honest, Mr. Attorney. The comments from the public, first is James Ashley from the Home Builders Association of Central Arizona.
Thank you very much. Mayor, members of the council, James Ashley with the Home Builders Association of Central Arizona. I had the pleasure of speaking at the October 15th hearing. I want to reiterate my comments that evening of our positive experience working with the city on many issues, covering a significant number of topics, including and significantly aside from the impact fee process as well. On October 15th, I noted that of the progress that had been made on the impact fee proposal, there was one remaining item that was still of concern. And that's still an unresolved item that now leads us to oppose the impact fee proposal. And this is the park amenity cost of $1 million per acre. In September, the city referenced and provided an itemized list of park amenity cost assumptions from neighboring cities. Similar to Buckeye referencing a list of park amenity costs from other jurisdictions, we compared what other jurisdictions were quoting this year for park amenities with site work, including earthwork, hardscape, electrical, and landscaping, and not including any necessary land purchase. Chandler came in at $615,000 per acre, the city of Maricopa at $548,000. Goodyear came in at $662,000 per acre, and that was an average of their two service areas. And Surprise, as was noted, came in at $824,000. Phoenix originally came in at $800,000 per acre and is now at $565,000 per acre, and is based on recent parks that were constructed and also adjusted for inflation using the Engineering News Record Building Cost Index for January 2028. And our members, our builders, they evaluated Phoenix's original $800,000 amount and found it on the high end, but just within the ballpark of what our members had built with desirable park amenities in their communities. Gilbert came in at $824,000 per acre, and although they have stated that they will use some non-impact fee resources for a higher amount, Gilbert is also paying on debt, which was included in the impact fee amount, driving the costs up. Buckeye's reference not being sure how all the funds will be spent. One way to alleviate that challenge is to collect a little bit less. The city's September development impact fee summary for state fiscal year 2024 shows the park's impact fee ending balance at $7,042,394, the second highest balance of any city category. Moderating Buckeye's per acre cost to be more in line with even the higher tier of other jurisdictions would reduce the North Service Area fee for a new single-family home by $272, and in the South Service Fee area by about $501. And a more modest adjustment would also lower the amount. This is a two-step process, and this is the second half of the first step this evening, and we still realize that there is still time for proper adjustments to be made to mitigate and moderate these fees. So thank you very much for your time, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. So, Mr. Copy, just start off with a question in related to what Mr. Ashley was talking about. The I think difference of opinion between staff and the Home Builders Association of Central Arizona is the cost per acre that we have set at $1 million, and where do we come up with that cost?
I came from a couple different areas. One is primarily the Sundance Park. We looked at that cost. That was just a couple years ago. So that's really was kind of one of the foundations of looking at to arrive at this $1 million. There's some other areas that we did some research. Lost Trails. There's some other ones that were right around $1 million per acre. So there's within the city, we found a couple examples. Current costs were right around $1 million, maybe even a little bit higher than $1 million. But the report was already set at $1 million, so we felt very comfortable that it was a reasonable price.
And that difference we're talking about, I think in the entire, I'm trying to go back and remember, we were at a $35,000-ish per unit.
We were at 35.4.
35.4, and we've come down to
25.8.
25.8. And the contention, the reason the home builders are not in favor of the entire program is because this will add, now it's $1 million per acre of the park, but it'll add 200 and how many dollars per
It's going to be the
unit?
400 to 500. Our Ben, with Tischler Bice, he came up with around $450. So it's been in that $400 to $500 range is what it would go down by. I guess on the other side of that, you know, it's about a $5 million, $5.5 million hit that we would have to come up with somewhere else that would have to fund this through basically the general fund. You know, if the cost is $1 million, that's what we're paying. We're getting $800,000 per acre. That difference is going to have to be made somewhere, and that would come from the general fund. So.
Or build a lesser park or build lesser amenities.
Or lower the amenities.
Yeah, okay. Okay, got it. I appreciate that. Council, any questions on item 6D?
I have a question. Can you go forward one slide? Explain to me quickly about the reduction in this
Yeah, so for the water and wastewater,
Yeah.
we don't have any, and Terry is probably going to be the one that would answer this a lot better, but, you know, for our planned growth areas, anything outside going to the east is outside of that growth area for water and wastewater infrastructure. So right now, for the impact fee calculations, we're only within, for the water, that salmon color, and then basically on wastewater, there's a Sundance part, and then you have the central, the light green color. The idea is that we're only going to build or expand the facilities within those colored areas, shaded areas.
Okay, thank you. And then the other question I have on that, really more of a comment than a question when we start talking about the parks impact fee. It has been my experience in the past 8 years being on council that when a developer struggles with making a project pencil out, the very first thing that gets checked off the box is the amenities for parks and stuff like that. So the fact that we're going in there and making sure we have the appropriate fees for the city to go in and backfill those things is wise on our behalf for the future of Buckeye and just not the growth cycle of Buckeye. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Yarger. Can I just piggyback off of one of his questions? The maps that you have up here did not necessarily mean that we're not going to grow in that area. It just means that we're not collecting impact fees for infrastructure. So the process for building then becomes more of an exaction that the developer pays for the infrastructure that's necessary.
That's correct.
Okay, all right, thank you. And good question, Councilman Yonker. Any other questions from council?
Yeah, one question, Mr. Mayor. This is probably for Ms. Gomez, I think. Again, related to the parks and impact fees. I think we had a workshop sometime back about our parks inventory, and there was a ratio in there that a unit of park per population, I think I'm getting that right. But I think I remember that we are woefully underbuilt as far as parks and amenities across the city. Is that?
Vice Mayor, members of council, that's correct. So we're in the middle of actually kind of in the final stages of updating our master plan right now. And the established level of service that council adopted for Buckeye back in 2016 was 8 acres per 1,000. And that's a pretty typical ratio. And what council decided to do at that point was to assign 4 of those to be public and 4 of those to be private. So right now, the city, I'm going to look back to Bob to nod at me, but I think we're coming in at, is it 0.2, 0.5? Is it 5? I think it's 0.5 acres per 1,000 residents is what we're at right now. So drastically below the level of service that we've set.
So this impact fee, while it's higher than our neighbors, will help us catch up in that regard.
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
Vice Mayor, I'm sorry, can I correct myself? I don't know that it'll help us catch up. I think that it will help us keep pace as we grow. So not necessarily, it's not looking to close the gap, it's looking to, as we grow, maintain our level of service.
Great, thank you very much.
Okay, I'll just start right there with my question.
Yes, sir.
The first one is then, so, on the level of service, what this impact fee does is it only impacts new construction, new developments, correct?
Correct. I'm gonna look.
So to clarify the question that Mr. Goodman asked, it doesn't impact those people. So the requirements of this document, this would only impact new development. It wouldn't provide additional service already in developed areas, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. That's I have no questions for Mr.
Yes, sir.
And to follow up on that, just to make sure, if somebody tunes in on YouTube, only applies to developments. It does not apply to residences, that kind of thing, correct?
Correct.
And even if the city of Buckeye puts in a new water treatment facility, we're not putting in new.
Correct.
And then who pays those?
So at the time a permit is pulled, so depending on who pulls the permit, that's when the impact fees will be paid at that.
Okay, so this isn't something that a developer would put like within the CFD, there's a charge to the home and it's paid over time on each house, like $3,500 or something per house for the next 20 years or something. We're not talking about something like that. This is paid at the time of pulling the permit by the developer.
Or whoever is pulling the permit.
Okay, and then
correct?
presumably.
It's a one-time fee.
Right, and then presumably they may add that to the price of the house or whatever they're building, but it's not something that's gonna live on like that or be a separate charge to the, okay, thank you, that's all I have, thank you.
Councilmember, will you ask your first question, though? Again, your mic wasn't on. I want to make sure anybody that is tuning in on YouTube catches that first question that you asked about this not being charged to existing homes.
Did you want Miranda to come back up?
I think I'll just ask you. So my question was, if somebody's tuning in on YouTube right now and see that we're raising impact fees, they don't have to worry about that because it only applies to new developments. It's paid by developers and it's not a charge on existing taxpayers.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Is that what you were looking for?
Yeah, appreciate that. And just to piggyback off of one of his questions, Councilmember Hagestad's questions, may not necessarily be a new service within a development, but some of the fees we're talking about with, for instance, park fees, we'd be collecting fees for a park that may be a service to a development adjacent to or up in the region, a regional park type amenity. Is that a correct statement?
Correct.
Yeah, okay, in essence, the folks that have already moved in, paid into a park impact fee, we're already collecting on that, and I think that's perhaps some of what Mr. Ashley's getting at. Now, you have new residents that are coming in either that same development or an adjacent development, and they're going to be paying into an impact fee that is increased or gone from whatever it was to what it is now, paying for those amenities that'll be built up in an area that would benefit both the old and the new folks coming in.
Any of the infrastructure amenities have to be just growth related. So if it's existing, we can't use this money to pay for existing facilities in an existing park. It has to be a growth related expenditure or infrastructure.
Yeah, please.
So on this 800,000 number that Mr. Ashley was using, that's apples to apples with our million. It seemed like he explained it a little bit different, like it was exclusive of land. Are we apples to apples on our million?
We're not including land either.
Okay, so it is an apples to apples comparison. And the piggyback on that one is, is it true that we will have another chance to revisit that number?
Yes. So at the public hearing for the fees, adoption of the fees, that will be the next opportunity in January 7th. We could make the change. The report sets the fees in place. Any changes after tonight would be reflected as a credit on that future report. So we could change it, but then by making that change, basically the general fund will have to then supplement those changes or that reduction in the fees.
If we're right about the million?
Yeah.
Okay, but if he's right that it's gonna be 800 and we only change it to, and we say sometime between now and that hearing, we say, yeah, we think 800 is more realistic, that, how does that?
So I just wanted to add is that right now, we're looking at $1 million today's dollars. There is no inflation factors built into this number. So this is a fee that will be in place for a minimum of 5 years. And then after, for potentially up to 10 years. So, we're not looking at, next year, if inflation is 5%, we're not adding any additional money to these fees. So we're gonna have to absorb any inflationary effect on these infrastructure or amenities through, either general fund supporting it through that factor, or basically we just have less amenities that we can add if the inflation kicks in.
Okay.
Some of these.
All right, well, then that leads me to one last question, and that is, are we talking about the same level of service for $1,800,000? Have we looked at that? Do we know if we're comparing apples to apples there?
Well, I mean, from our perspective, it's not, it's less. So the $800,000 would buy less.
The less level of service?
Right, reduced level of service,
All right.
from our perspective.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember. See, you had nothing, and then we kept talking over here, and then you came up with something.
I cannot resist on my passion for speaking to this item and really encouraging the council to not reduce that amount. And I always like to get things just down to basics. I mean, we're a city of what now, 120,000 or whatever? Yep. We have one swimming pool. We basically have 2 parks that you can go to enroll your child in a soccer game or a little league field. We are not building extravagant facilities for very few people. We need these fees because it's our residents who are going to be calling us saying, why don't I have availability? And it's like we're trying to buy the land up north now, which we are finding is going to be an astronomical amount. And then we're going to have to put amenities on that, those park facilities. So that $6 or $7 million isn't just sitting around doing nothing. There's plans for that. So I highly encourage we keep this at what I consider a reasonable amount.
Thank you, Councilmember. Can I have you go back to one of the first comparison graphs that you had up there? So in this graph specifically, take Glendale West, for instance. Does that include water or wastewater?
I believe it does. I would have to get the breakdown of our spreadsheet. I don't have that available. I do believe it is.
I don't think it does.
Okay.
And I'm not trying to clip you on it. It's difficult to compare us with other folks. And what I'm thinking in Glendale West is that is an area west that's served by EPCOR, right? So there is no water and wastewater fees in this area, I think. And it's difficult to make just a straight up comparison because every one of these impact fees is carved up differently. And there's different things that are added in. There are communities that are much, much more built out than we are. And so an impact fee to them is an extension of a water line or a sewer line and maybe a small expansion of a treatment plant. But it's difficult to compare what other municipalities have with where we're at on this graph right here, which is a very young, very rapidly growing community.
Yeah, my focus has always been cities larger than us and then the ones slightly behind us. And as we gotten further back, we've kind of lost a little bit of interest as to how those were being calculated.
Right.
But I can double check and confirm which ones to compare apples to apples. I can figure out really quickly which ones have, make sure all of them are the same. The next time if we present this, I'll make sure they're all apples to apples.
That would be helpful, and I think it would kind of help tell the story. I think we would see some of those fall off at the very, very low end, and there would be a tighter difference between all of the communities that are rapid growing. And even this, if you take out the Peoria West to the left, while we are the higher, there's not as big a difference between us and the other municipalities. Okay. Okay, great. Thank you. I appreciate the conversation on this. Council item 6D. What is your pleasure?
Mr. Mayor, excuse me, Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve item 6D.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion for approval by Vice Mayor Goodman, second by Councilmember Hess. Would you please vote on your vote pad? And all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and opposed? And 6D passes unanimous. Thank you all. Thank you, James, for the comments, too. Okay, 6E, council to take action on the professional services agreement, PSA contract number 2024135 between the City of Buckeye and Arizona Municipal Corporation and Allied Waste Transportation, Inc., a Delaware corporation doing business as Republic Services of Phoenix for solid waste collection services, and authorize city manager to execute and deliver said PSA on behalf of the City of Buckeye. You're not Brett Hodney. It says Brett Hodney, and I look up and... How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Good.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I am Amy Murray. I'm the Deputy Public Works Director. And tonight we are here to discuss the residential solid waste contract. So tonight's action is for Council to approve the new solid waste contract. There will also be a brief discussion regarding rates. You will see some rate information tonight. However, we are not voting on proposed rate increases this evening, only the solid waste contract. The City of Buckeye has had privatized solid waste contract with Republic Services for the last 11 years. The current solid waste contract expires on November 30th. The city held a competitive process for a new solid waste contract. The contract you are voting on tonight is a 7-year contract with the potential of 3 one-year extensions per city code. We received 3 proposals. We had a review committee recommend one of the companies we received proposals from, and they have recommended that we move forward with Republic Services. Based on conversations with Mayor and Council a year ago, the new contract looked for opportunities to provide efficient services to residents. This contract is in line with your shared thoughts, residents' needs, and trends in the industry. That provided us with an opportunity to become more efficient. We will be moving to same-day service, whereas under the current contract, trash is picked up one day, with recycling picked up another day during the week. So this improved efficiency allows solid waste to be picked up on the same day. Another opportunity that we have is to improve our bulky trash collection. Currently, the schedule is we advise the resident 1 week each quarter of the year when we will be by to pick up their bulky waste. However, with this new contract, residents will be able to schedule their bulky pickup, which better benefits their needs. In our expiring contract, Republic had the option to recycle based on market demand. However, we are bringing recycling back. Another opportunity that we also have is with our CART program. And currently with our CART program, the maintenance of the carts is handled by 2 city employees. And with this new contract, those positions will be eliminated. However, these 2 employees have been absorbed into other departments, so they will not be losing pay or benefits. And this program will then move to Republic Services to complete. And another exciting opportunity we have with this new contract is a business synergy option. So in our expiring, we also have 2 businesses, Blue Polymers and Rarick Pacific. Blue Polymers will accept Buckeye's plastic recycling. They will process that for Rarick Pacific to use in their business operations. And part of this opportunity involves the plastic recycling and processing where Rarick Pacific will use those materials from Blue Polymers to create our 96-gallon trash carts. So we're very excited about this opportunity. So as we move to the next slide, I would like to briefly discuss finances. So currently, what you see here is a graph, and this is simply a strategy for us to meet the financial policy where all city funds are required to have a 60-day reserve. Currently, we are not meeting that requirement with our Solid Waste Enterprise Fund, but we have a proposed plan to get there within this contract. So as you're looking at this graph, the orange line represents the funding that we need to meet the required reserve goal. We will discuss fees later on this year. But the bottom line is in blue is our current fund balance with our current contract. Our yellow line is our projected reserves under the new contract. Now you will notice there is a dip at the start of the new contract due to expenses increasing and the revenue not meeting the reserve fund. But as I stated, we will have a strategy to get the reserves up to where they need to be throughout this contract. So this next slide will show you a suggested rate strategy. So this scenario rate schedule reflects the amount charged to residents over the course of the 7-year contract. These rates allow the Solid Waste Enterprise Fund to become balanced and not require general funds to absorb revenue losses. If these rates are approved, residents will see an increase in February, then an annual 4% increase each December. Now, I would like to mention that these rates have 2 components. One is the Republic Services cost and approximately another $4 cost to cover administrative fees for the city to manage this contract. I would also like to mention the in-ground service container is for festival residents that have in-ground cans. We will come back to council later this year to further discuss rates, but tonight we wanted to provide a quick overview of a proposed schedule to meet our reserve requirement. Another question we're asked frequently is how do we stack up against neighboring cities? And even with the proposed rate increases, which is reflected by the yellow line, we remain in the lower half of the graph. We're in pretty good standing compared to other cities in the valley. So the next steps, we're coming to council tonight to approve the contract. But I also wanted to make mention of the public notification of the rate change and our timeline for that notice. As part of this process, we have already posted the maximum proposed rates on the city's website. In December, we will have a notice of intent that will be posted. We will come back to council in January with a resolution, and should that be approved, it will be effective on February 6th. I would also like to mention that in addition to this schedule, various city departments are working with Public Works to ensure that we provide ample communication to the community, whether it is through print media, digital media, or social media. So after the resolution becomes effective in February, then finance will work to begin the implementation of the new rate structure. So with that, Mayor and Council, I would like to thank you for your time. We welcome your thoughts and comments. And tonight we are asking you to approve the professional services agreement between the City of Buckeye and Allied Waste Transportation, Inc., doing business as Republic Services, our contract number 2024135. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Amy. We'll go to council for questions. Councilmember Guy.
Can you go over the bulk trash again?
Yes.
How many times will residents be able to call in? Will they call in through the city? Will they be calling Republic directly?
They will work with Republic directly, and residents will continue to have pickup available to them 4 times a year.
Okay, so each resident can call in 4 times a year, and they'll keep track of that somewhere?
Correct.
And will it be through the city or through Republic?
Through Republic.
Councilmember Hess.
I know we're not talking about rates tonight, but when was the last time that the city raised these rates?
Excuse me? 2023? 2023.
The actual rates were
Yeah, no, here, come on.
Robert Vandenacker, Environmental Operations Manager, Public Works. The rates were approved in 2019, 2020 we had a 3-year extension. And that was the last time the rates came.
Okay, and Councilmember Guy, you have one more.
It says if we improve the contract, we're not approving a rate increase, but how will we pay for the contract if there isn't a rate increase?
Okay, we are coming back to council with a proposed rate increase to meet our revenue requirements before the end of the year. Okay, if those rates are not approved, then the general fund will subsidize the difference.
If this contract is approved.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Put your microphone on, though. We're going to get you a bell or
I
something.
have my helper right here. He can reach it. So I wanted to talk, so we're basically doing both tonight, whether we like it or not, because if we accept this contract, the rates are going to have to go up, or we're going to have to fund it through the general fund, right?
Correct.
Okay. So my understanding is that we have had a rate freeze for a couple of years already. Is that correct?
Correct.
So for at least 2 years, we have not raised rates on the residents, correct? Okay. If the average increase over the last few years in other cities was about 5%, 4 or 5%, are we basically in line if we adopt this contract and increase the rates that we think we'll need to increase them to so that we can cover the new contract? Are we in? Does that match? In other words, are we basically on the same track had we have raised rates in the last 2 years?
Yes.
Okay, so it's not that we are, it's not a big increase, it's just we saved it in, we froze it for 2 years and now we're just going to where the rates would have been had we kept the increase. Is that a yes?
Yes.
Thank you. And then on the communication to the residents, so right now, do you know the only communication we've done to the residents is through the city's website, or have we done digital? Have we put anything in the invoices to the residents so that they know something's coming?
We are working on that currently. Right now, the only media that we have used is the city's website. So after this contract is approved tonight, then we will move forward with working with marketing and utility billing. So our plan is to have a utility billing insert. We're also looking at door hangers or cart tags. So those will be your printed medias along with brochures and things of that nature that we will use at community outreach events. And then we also will use e-blasts, email services that the city uses, the various e-blast mechanisms that various departments use to get the word out to the citizens, and then also through our social media channels.
Okay. One of the things I noticed that one of the dates that I guess when we put it on the website was around November 6th.
Right.
I would like to encourage us as a city from now on to get, if we're talking about raising rates and having issues like this, I would encourage us to get that out there soon as we know about it. Even if it's before that, whatever triggers making that November 6th the date. As soon as we know, I'd like us to get something out there on the website, or not on the website, but because I don't consider notice on a website to be notice to a resident, because I don't think out of the 125,000 people in this city, I never go to the website to see if my rates are going to go up on my trash. So I would just say, let's get it out there in the social medias and those kind of things as soon as we're even contemplating those types of things, just so that people don't think we're trying to run the clock out on them. And one last question for you would be, it's quite a bit more for the in-ground service and festival. Can you explain why, so that everybody who looks at this and says, well, they're already being charged $7, $8 more per household for the in-ground service, and I think it's gonna jump about $10. I don't know if that's gonna be staged in or if it's gonna go exactly to $10 like that immediately. But can you explain why it's so much, what the issues involved are, and why we were getting such a higher rate from Republic on those services?
Yes.
Thank you.
To provide the pickup for the in-ground containers, it is very labor intensive, and we have a truck and several laborers that drive each street that has the in-ground containers, and the gentlemen pick up the trash out of each container and haul it to the truck. So it's very labor intensive. It's not automated at all.
Okay, and we're not asking the residents to give that up. We're just saying our costs for doing that have gone up, and this is the best bid that we got.
Yes, it is.
Okay, and I'm sorry I said one more, but that's what lawyers do.
No.
Famous last words of a lawyer is, I got one more question. But I wanted to talk about this same-day service.
Yes.
So the residents are going to put both their 96-gallon cans on the street on the same day?
Correct.
Did we consider whether or not that really can happen in an actual real world? There's not a lot of room on the streets with cars parked out front and all those kinds of things with one can, but you got to put two cans out there and then bring two cans in on the same day. I worry about the realities of that one, but we'll have to see how it goes. And
Yes,
we
and
may
that
have to put it out for bid again in 7 years, huh?
There you go.
Okay.
Yes, that is actually a trend in the valley, same-day service. So we will be in line with the trends, and several residents have expressed interest in having same-day service.
For both 96-gallon cans?
Yes.
Okay, we'll see how it goes.
Okay.
Bold move, Cotton.
Bold move, Cotton. Councilmember, do all the areas in Festival have in-ground cans?
It's just the
active
adults. Yep.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Questions? Any other questions? Okay. Your attorney has asked all the questions. Yes. Bold move, Cotton. Just to reiterate, this was an open bid sent out, and so for instance is we had opened up the opportunity for others to come in and bid on the in-ground service, as well as the 96 gallon, the collection of the trash from the 96 gallon. So complete open bid, and our current contractor is who came in low on all of it.
Yes, that is correct, Mayor.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I'd add to that, just because we were looking for the best value, we teased out the in-ground piece and allowed folks to bid that separately and not be required to do that, just to see if we could come up with some better numbers, and Republic allied.
Yeah, I think that's really important to say too, and because there are other areas, the Sun Cities, for instance, have the in-ground service, and there's a potential of bringing that specific contractor out to do just Festival for us, and either no taker or they weren't the low bidder on the process. Okay, all right, that's great. don't think I have any other questions. Just, I want to make a comment. We went into the process and it's an open bid and you don't know exactly what you're going to get. And could not be more happy that we are sticking with Republic Services for this. I think staff feels the same way. They're at least nodding here at this council meeting saying that. But Alberto and Melissa, you guys are outstanding corporate partners for us, and we appreciate how you engage in our community, not only picking up the trash, managing the landfill, completely separate tasks, but engaging in the events that we have going on and participating and other things, being there to help when there are issues, and providing outstanding customer service for our community. So thank you. Thank you for getting low, and thank you for continuing to be our contractor for solid waste here. Amy, great job. This is your first time presenting to us, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay, fantastic job. Council, item 6E, what is your pleasure?
Make a motion, we approve item 6E.
Second.
I have a motion to approve item 6E by Councilmember Hess, second by Vice Mayor Goodman. All in favor, say aye and vote.
Aye.
Aye.
And opposed, and passes unanimous. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's see, item 6F, council take action on resolution number 78-24, establishing a policy and process for reviewing and adjusting city council salary stipends and allowances. Mr. Doug.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. I am here tonight to present to you Resolution 7824, which would establish a process for staff to annually review council and mayor salaries and stipends in a system which would not require any kind of further review and is designed to make sure that council pay stays current with what council pay is throughout the valley. The last time the city council and mayor's pay was modified was in 2005, at which time the mayor's pay was set at $21,000 and the council's pay at $14.4 thousand annually. So it's been nearly 20 years since the last time we had a modification in the salaries. What we are proposing through this resolution is establishment of a system where on an annual basis, we will go out and look at all the comparable valley cities. Comparable valley cities are all those cities in the Phoenix metro area with a population greater than 90,000 that do not have a full-time mayor and council, which basically excludes the city of Phoenix, but keeps all the other large cities in the valley. We'll look at what their council and mayor pay are, take the average of those, and then apply that to our council with either giving the average of all those cities for the pay, adjusting it by a cost of living increase, or leaving it exactly as is, whichever of those three options is the greatest. The intent is that this December, we will go out and do that evaluation and then implement whatever that modification is in the month of January. We will then do that review again in December of 2025, and from that point forward, it'll fall right in line with the annual budget process with increases being built into the budget. This will ensure that our council pay stays as it is, a system's in place, and it will remove the mayor and council from having to deal with such a sensitive topic at any point in the future. And with that, I will open it up to any questions.
Okay, any questions from council?
I do have a small question. Within this process, so we have, I want to make sure if in the future, if a 2008 situation happens again, would future councils have the ability to then pull that number back out of our salaries and make it more cash available for staff salaries, if needed be?
Yes, council will always have the discretion to stop whatever process it is and then not implement any kind of increases.
I just don't want to hamstring future councils from doing what they have to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Hess.
Mr. Chanstrom, what's the current process?
Well, the current process is council would bring up a proposal and bring it to council and do a review at that point. There is no process in place. The last time the pay was increased was in 2005.
And did we compare this to how the other cities do it? I know we used a model city to find this one. Is there a lot of different ways that other city councils do it or other cities do it, or?
There are a lot of different ways that it's done. The election that just happened, the city of Phoenix by charter has to go out to a vote of the residents, so they went out to a vote to get theirs increased. Peoria and Goodyear both have charters as well that require any increases over a certain percentage would have to go out to a vote of the people. Some cities have a citizens committee that makes recommendations, including those that would have to recommend going out to a vote of the people, and others just set it internally. So it is a wide range of what is done out there.
And so you picked one to model it after. Was there a reason that this one was done versus the other 5 or 6 you mentioned?
We picked this methodology because it kind of mirrors what we do with our own employees. We go out and look at the comparable cities that we're going to be talking about here, the what's 90,000 and above, are the same cities that we look at to compare for our own employees, what the competition is, what the market is. And so it follows that kind of same train of thought with that.
Except for this isn't the same kind of position. Just wanted to state that. Okay.
Councilmember Guy?
Is there, I would hate to think that council would ever get a larger increase than we would give our employees. So is there some way to, I mean, if 1 year we can only give our employees a 2% merit, I would hate to think that we would take more than a 2% increase.
If there was a question there, I think. Yes,
I could rephrase it as a question.
It would be possible that you would end up with an increase greater than what employees would be, especially in the very first year because of the fact that salaries have not been adjusted since 2005. It's just like when the city does salary and surveys for our employees. There's a lot of times there's that initial bump up and then an increase after that. Typically speaking, I would not foresee that kind of change on an ongoing basis where you would get that more often or a higher amount than what employees get, just because of the conservative nature of it when it comes to councils and how they give raises.
Good. All right. And any other questions? I think you mentioned it's always a sensitive. I'm gonna disagree with you. There hadn't been any adjustments, and then we'll go to the sensitive part of it. It's a good thing that Councilman Hustis is not here, because as he and I were coming into a council back in 2009 timeframe, we were in some very difficult economic circumstances in the city, and we were cutting employee pay 5, 10, and 15%. And the meeting before we took our seats, it was voted on by the council previous, who were on their way out, that they were going to give us a 15% pay cut, and that's where that stayed. I'm not bitter, he is. I just want to bring that up. But it is always a sensitive issue, and those increases we were talking about, well, potentially could be a higher percentage. I don't expect that there would be a lot of percentage increases in. It's an actual dollar value much less than once we're adjusted to the average across the valley. And it's always sensitive to bring that up, because every time you do, the public gets pretty amped up about they're giving themselves a raise again. And I mean, you can see that at either our level or the state level or federal level. So it's a difficult topic. And for the entire now 14 years that I've been serving on either council or as mayor, that's not something that you raise your hand and come forward with. So I appreciate this being brought up, not by council members, but by staff to keep us in the running and competitive when it comes to council member and mayor salaries. And I think you had said it out loud there, it's 21,000 or 14,000, depending on what position you're serving in. So it's not, this is not, we're not crushing it up here financially as elected officials. And what we do want to see moving forward is being on par with other cities so that we are attracting folks that would be interested in doing the job. While it's mostly volunteer, you don't want to be at the very bottom of the barrel, and you want to be attracting people to the position and make sure that that they have not only a reason to serve, but some compensation for all the time that folks are putting in, elected officials are putting in. So I appreciate this being brought up, and I just wanted to make those comments before we go to a motion on item 6F. There's no other questions on this. 6F, council, what is your pleasure?
Nobody wants to pull the trigger.
Right. That's why it's so sensitive.
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve item 6F.
Okay, I have a motion for approval on item 6F by Vice Mayor Goodman, a second by Councilmember Yonker. All in favor, say aye and vote on your machine.
Aye.
Aye. And those opposed, nay. And votes are in, it's unanimous. Thank you, council.
Can we revisit the compensation by chickens with the price of it?
Yeah, smoked chickens. Item number 7, comments from mayor and council. Any comments tonight from Vice Mayor?
Yeah, I just want to take this opportunity, the two colleagues to my left, Janine Guy and Michelle Hess. This is their last business meeting as council members. I know it's bittersweet. But I know the newest member of council until the new council is seated. When I was thinking about stepping forward and applying, the first person I reached out to was Michelle. I've known her for a long time and advised me that I should do it. And I think within 30 seconds had sent me the application and helped me fill it out. But I just want to thank you for your friendship and mentorship over the years and for all your service to Buckeye. And with Janine, it's the sister I never had on council, so was also one that I leaned on pretty heavily. I was really appreciated her advice and counsel on lots of things, and just want to say you'll both be missed, and thank you for your service to Buckeye.
I would like to say this to the both of you is I hear all the time about how this council is so friendly and collegial and professional up here. And I think since the day I got on this council, way too long to think about, but I have looked at both of you for the professionalism and how you treat each other and the rest of us as something to emulate every time I get up here. Sometimes I fail, but that's what I look for. Thank you both for serving, and I wish you both luck in wherever you end up.
Yeah, I would like to echo all of that as well. You guys both came alongside me when I first got into council and helped me learn the ropes and know what to do and what not to do. I will miss you both, and I will miss the Janine leaning over right before I get to make a comment and going, "Tony, don't cuss." or the Michelle was sitting down and strategizing how to look at different things and giving an opinion that I didn't necessarily see the angle of before. So you guys will be very much missed.
You have anything to say?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a lot to say.
Oh, boy. Yeah, let me let you all go last. And I'll just do one comment, and then I'll echo the same as my colleagues. We had an awesome opportunity with the 492nd Civil Affairs Battalion. They are the Army Reserve unit that is at the very north end of Miller Road. They are starting a yearly tradition. They did this for the first time last year. And I got to walk with them that year. This year did exactly the same, where you meet them up at their unit in the morning at 6:30 a.m. and did a 6.1 mile ruck march with 100 plus of these Army reservists from all over the country who come to train here on the weekend. And they carried food in their rucksacks all the way down to the food bank, All Faith Food Bank, and put that food in the bins down there. And they carried 1,500 pounds worth of food from their location all the way down. I think that is such an awesome opportunity. One, to get to know our neighbors up there. Most of us, I bet there's a fair amount of us in this room that have no idea there is an Army Reserve unit up there. They just quietly go about their business. And now we're getting to know them and build that relationship, and look forward to more of that next year. And wanted to do a special thank you to police and fire for helping managing traffic. And it was us walking, no kidding, down lanes on Miller Road from north of the freeway all the way through to Maricopa, and then cutting through neighborhoods. And police were there. I think it was kind of fun. They got to speed out in front of us, and lights on and sirens and everything else. And probably great practice for parades and that moving forward. But a great showing by our community, great showing by police, and it was awesome to have the opportunity with them. For my colleagues, there's a couple things that I remember. Specifically, Michelle, I think I remember the very first day you were sitting in the lobby going up to talk to folks about the potential of running for council. And so 12 years ago now, unbelievable that it has been that long. And you've been an outstanding servant to the city of Buckeye. And we are so grateful for you, for the time that you've put in, for all the stuff that we have gone through, from the growth, the very professional and very amicable disagreements on some things that are coming in, but what an opportunity to serve with you in growing one of the fastest cities in the United States. The people that we've been able to be around along the way, the people that we've lost along the way, and your connection and ability to connect people and network folks in and provide leadership, being a part of Leadership West, helping to begin things like the youth, the SciTech Festival, Read On, and really engaging the youth in our community. And you have a real heart for that, and we really appreciate that. And all the while, being a wonderful wife to Mackenzie, and to being an awesome mom to your kids. And it's so fun to watch them grow up and see what great citizens are going to be here in the city of Buckeye. Thank you for your service to Buckeye. Councilmember Guy, you have yelled at me for now 8 years. I was thinking earlier on today, I think the first time that we met, I was still working with D&B at Verado, and I'd come to a public meeting where you were talking about the white tanks and the Gila River and open spaces. I think it was a master plan meeting, and you just lit up talking about the open space and the opportunities that were out ahead of us, and keeping our mind, even back then, it wasn't anywhere near an elected official position, but even back then being so devoted to the community. You've spent basically your entire life here, 80-plus years of being in the community. It's probably not that long, but serving the city of Buckeye from a community services department, parks, library, a city manager here, building this place, being a part of all the growth that has gone on. And you were out, and you didn't have to put up with this anymore, and you jumped right back in to become a council member and brought the tribal knowledge along of the things that had happened before, with a great understanding of that and a real look toward the future and the growth that's coming our way. It's been an absolute pleasure to serve with you also. I think you'll remember the great times that we had, one-on-ones in front of Robex and lawn chairs. I know that was one of your favorite lunch meetings that we ever did. I'll never forget you shouting map suggestions to Jerry as we're driving around Lakeland, Florida, and Jerry's her husband. Some of the best experiences I've had. But for both of you, so grateful for the opportunity to serve with you, absolute pros, and thankful to have that opportunity. Thank you.
First, I've seen many councils, many weird councils, and it has been such a pleasure to be associated and serve with you. I think of any school board I've been on, or even when I was on the West Met board, the collegiality, the willingness to listen to others' positions. Even if we desperately disagree about something, we get off the dais and we begin our next work. So it has just been sincere pleasure to work with all of you. I'm not really emotional. I don't know, my voice shakes when I'm talking, but I certainly want to thank Dan, Scott, leadership team. We are always prepared. If there is any material that we need, all we have to do is ask, and it's at our fingertips. And so far, I have never been blindsided since I've been on the council, and that is a really good thing when we're up here. So I appreciate that. And I think that we have the absolute best directors. We just have a group of stellar directors in every field. And I want you to know how comforting that is as council, as we're up here giving direction. I just feel so comfortable that it's being carried out, that the culture, the processes that we want to happen are actually happening. And then I just want to thank the city employees, and hopefully they're all in bed or doing something fun and are not listening to council meetings. So I would wish that you will please take back my appreciation. You know what? The average citizen doesn't care that there's a Teravalis and a Howard Hughes Corporation going up. They don't care. They want their potholes fixed. They want their right-of-ways to look nice. They want police and fire there when they need them. They want to be able to get a permit for a swimming pool or a add-on to their garage. Those are the things that are important to them in their day-to-day lives. And it's our frontline employees that do that every day. I always think in my mind, I call them the Mark Bianco unsung heroes. Mark is one of my favorite employees. And they're just out there killing it every day. They're our frontline customer service. It's, our people that answer the phone in water billing or trash or whatever that make this city what it is. So I have a deep, deep appreciation for them and their service. Thank you.
I don't know why I didn't think we were doing this tonight, but I didn't. It's been an incredible ride, the 13 years as finishing up. And I can remember taking a tour all the community services facilities when I first came on. And I just, Adam and I and his family painting break rooms and just all the memories. We really have grown up together as the city has grown up together. And it has been just an honor. I really consider many of you family. And so it was really easy to come to work. It was really easy to serve because I was just doing life with all of you and with our residents. And as Janine mentioned, we're in the best place with the best staff, and this is the best time, I think, to go out, is there's such confidence in my colleagues and in the staff that we have in place right now that we're gonna be fine, and everything's gonna be great, and I'm so excited about the future and so proud of our past, and I'm gonna continue, we're both probably gonna continue to cheer you on from the couch on Tuesday night instead of here on Tuesday nights. And I want to say thank you. Thank you to staff that was so patient with me in the beginning. And I love you all dearly, and I will miss you. And I just thank you.
Thank you, Council. Item number 7, comments, item number 8, City Manager's Report and summary of current events.
Thank you, Mayor. I didn't have anything this evening, but I would like to just join in the Love Fest, if I may. Just on behalf of staff, just echoing all the comments. There's not much left that hasn't been said, but thank you for your service to the city of Buckeye. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your support of staff. It's not easy for folks to come up in this box and address this council, and it can be quite intimidating, even if you know your material. So thank you for your professionalism and your politeness, and just we're going to miss you, as been said, and so we wish you well. There's always a front row open here on Tuesdays nights, though, so if the couch isn't appealing, we'd love to have you here. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Item number 9, proposal for future agenda items. Any from council? Hearing none. Item number 10 is adjournment. With nothing else, we are adjourned.